And with me, we have Nabil. He is a data security and compliance technical specialist. Hi, Nabil. Thanks
Hello.
for joining us today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for the invitation.
You're welcome. Thanks for accompanying here with me on this presentation.
Cool.
Okay, the agenda for today, and a friendly reminder, please, and I know that Nabil will share the link on the chat, but for us, it's very important that you can complete the survey at the end of this session. Please, we will appreciate that a lot. The first thing that, okay, we will talk about global concept about data leak vectors, global concept about data classifiers, data loss prevention, a general overview. We added some additional information that Nabil will share with us. And then we will jump to the demo. As maybe some of you know, I don't like too extensive presentation. In that order of idea, I will try to go very quick with this slide, at least to generate a complete overview, and then we will go to the demo. What's happened today? Maybe if you was participating in previous webinar, I use a lot this image. What's happened? In our organization, we can find anytime a user with a local computer, with a local drive, accessing to internet, accessing to external drives and printers. That same user can access to local applications, local repositories. That same user can share information with people in areas or process inside the organization. That same user can connect from outside the organization, from personal or corporate devices or mobile devices, accessing to the same information that is stored on cloud. We can find contractors or interns inside of our organization that have access, have a domain account to access to the cloud services. We have APIs that are accessing to our information as well. And finally, external users. In that order of idea, all these red lines can be leak vectors. And through Microsoft Purview, we can cover, control, and mitigate almost all of them. In past sessions, I was explaining about sensitivity labels. I was explaining more in depth about sensitive information types, data classifier, exadata match. Right now, only to have a complete concept, I will touch some of these topics, but feel free to reach my channel and view that previous sessions. Today, with data loss prevention, we will focus to avoid lose information and see what we can do to have some control. Related to the data classifier, that is very important for our DLP rules, we have the sensitive information types based on regular expressions, keyword lists, dictionaries, functions. We have the fingerprinted based on sensitive information type. This is a search based on document structure. We can find the trainable classifiers as well. That is based on content structure. And finally, we can find exadata match that search based on structured data previously loaded in Microsoft 365. If you want to learn more about these topics, you can scan this QR code where I have previous sessions talking about sensitive information types, talking about EDM. Here, the big deal is understand the concept of false positive and false negative. False positive is the information that we found that match with our conditions, but is not a right match under the concept or the information that we are looking for. And false negative, that is the worst part, is that information that we are not able to identify, to detect. The sensitive information types have a primary element, a character proximity or Windows proximity that was called previously. And when we set this proximity window, we will looking for additional evidence that are called supporting elements. But here the big deal and something that we need to understand is if we are looking, as an example, the most common one, uh, credit card numbers, we need to have the number. With the number, we will looking for the rest of evidence. But if we have the branding, if we have the CVV code or words related only, but not the number, we will not have a match. And the supporting elements are very important. For one sensitive information types, we can have several patterns set in different confidence level. What means the confidence level? In general, that is an establishment. When we have something in a high confidence level, we are looking for more evidence. We will reduce the false positive, but the false negative can be increased. For other side, when we set the low confidence with less evidence or without evidence, the false positive can be increased and the false negative can be reduced. This finally is a kind of balance, is something that we need to start playing. It's a kind of art. It's easy to create the DLP rules, but when we start working with the sensitive information types to try to cover all the information's asset in our organization, that is a little more complex. In that order of idea, today, through this public webinar, we want to discuss a little more what we can do with the rules. We will share some tips, some additional insight that can help to you, or at least I hope that you will be able to understand and improve your DLP rules. And why is important this data classifier? Because we are not using only the data classifiers on DLP. We can use the data classifiers on sensitivity labels, auto labeling, MIP scanner, DLP, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, insider risk management, data lifecycle management, and communication compliance. With DLP, we need to be aware that DLP is part of the Office family. It's part of the Office family. In that order of idea, with Office 365 E3, G3, or A3, you are covering SharePoint, OneDrive, and Exchange. With Office 365 E5, uh, sorry, or D5 or A5 or Microsoft 365 E5, additionally to SharePoint, OneDrive, and Exchange, we will cover Teams and endpoint DLP. But inclusive, when we was reviewing this draw with all these red lines, there is other components that need to be used to control and mitigate in the wide concept of data loss prevention, avoid have that open leak vectors. In that case, I am talking about Microsoft Defender for Cloud App. I am talking about mobile application management, mobile device management that can help us to cover the rest of these possible leak vectors. That is a quick overview. We will go jump to go in deep with all the configurations. I will try to explain a little more during the demo. And now I will give the the mic to Nabil, and he can start talking with us. Nabil?
Hello everyone. I hope you can hear me. So for the part of this presentation, I wanted, to, how I can say that, to highlight the fact. Yes, Juan, I see you. Maybe you want to ask something. It's okay. Okay. I wanted, to highlight something very, very interesting and important in terms of data security, because when we are talking about security in general, security team have, some toolings to be able to investigate, and most of times there is a kind of lack of insights about impact, about what happened during the security incident. And most of times we are able to identify, okay, this identity was compromised. Someone tried to bypass through networks, through infrastructure, and achieve, to deploy an exploit, for example, in a workstation. But most of times we do not have visibility about what kind of data, are exfiltrated and what is the true and real impact. So regarding these topics today, Microsoft Purview is right now able to provide a lot of insight in terms of coverage around all of your workloads. And data loss prevention is a way, the way to identify the exfiltration. I will take the control, Sebastian, just to be able to manage the timing of the PPT. Perfect.
Yeah, or let me know and I can.
You can move. Okay, you can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. So right now, Microsoft is coming with an approach that is called the adaptive protection for data security. The meaning behind this approach is to provide a synergy between information protection with capabilities to identify what is your data, the sensitivity of your data, and protect it as a data-centric method accordingly. We can also have synergy with something that we call, of course, data loss prevention. So this is the session of today, and I hope we will be able to propose and provide to you a lot of useful insights to help the organization to move on and build your journey. And we have also integration with inside the risk management and behavior analytics that can be very useful. So I will show you the details in the next slide. Sebastian? So what is adaptive protection? It's a way, to, so if I start from the beginning, when you are working about security, you are using signals, and for example, most of times we are using external threat signals to identify if something is happening. For example, for your conditional access policy, you can use Entra ID identity protection to identify through a user risk if a user is risky regarding some activities, signing activities, brute force attempt, and it can help to identify if the user can access a resource. Today, we are providing through the adaptive protection the capability to leverage insider risk insights. It means that through policies to identify data leak, we can, regarding activities across all of your landscape, identify if a user is trying, to collect data, exfiltrate data, operate some operation on sensitive data, maybe triggering a DLP alert. And, the user will have an insider risk level that you will be able to use for your conditional access. So the first step for your data loss prevention policy. So this is why we are discussing today. This is the topic of today. But we can also imagine some scenario when you can, apply some retention policy also on your data based on this insider risk. So if Sebastian click in his in the PPT, yeah, for the next animation, a user can have his risk level too high, and it will trigger several security operation or remediation, and you will be able to control what happened in terms of data leak dynamically without to configure as a static rules something regarding your different use cases. The thing that is very, very insightful is by adding this adaptive protection in strategy, you are providing to your security team behavior signals that will be very, very useful for the XDR part of your SOC analyst to facilitate and optimize incident response and remediation. So if you continue, Sebastian, we will have some example in terms of investigation in the next slide. So right now I am in my Defender XDR portal. I want to investigate in a risky workstation, for example, that is named WKS Entra ID registered. We can see that the risk level of the device is in high because maybe my EDR, my Microsoft Defender for Endpoint like solution, is providing to me some insight about the risky level of the device, But through Microsoft Purview, if you go to the animation, Sebastian, we can see that we can have a visibility about the most sensitive data present in the workstation or consumed in the workstation. So at the device level, you can have the impact. If the device is compromised, you can identify what kind of data was consumed or stored in the data. So it can be a good way to prioritize. If you continue, Sebastian, for the second example. So right now, as a security team, as a SOC analyst, I am, investigating across a multi-stage incident involving initial access and exfiltration on multiple devices, And through XDR, I have an automatic correlations from signals across Defender, across third-party security tooling, across Microsoft Purview. And in this view, I can identify that my EDR, my anti-malware identify maybe a backdoor that exists something, that are trying to compromise my workstation. But through Microsoft Purview, I can identify that there is also a sensitive document, C3, labeled C3, because I have an automatic correlation through information protection and data loss prevention in my engine, in my correlation engine. So it's very, very useful once again to prioritize. So if you go in the next slide, Sebastian, we talked about behavior analyticals. So insider risk is something very, very important if you want to have the full coverage and the full visibility. You can right now, if you are using, for example, Microsoft Sentinel or third-party CM, connect some logs from insider risk management. So this is something that you can do. You can ingest these logs and try to to define some detection rules to identify if something happened through native correlation or through third-party correlation. So the things that you can see in this slide is from Microsoft Sentinel. We have a dedicated data connector. But if you go in the next slide, Sebastian, we have a native integration with Microsoft XDR directly through the insider risk management portal and tooling to forward these logs directly in your Defender XDR portal. It means that you will have an optimization about how you can collect data directly in XDR with full correlation to identify if something happened. It means, if you continue, Sebastian, if I am, for example, investigating for a dedicated case, so this one is suspicious granting of permission in an account, you see, this is a medium alert. Maybe this is not my, my priority as a SOC analyst, but I want to go, deeper in this case, and I want to, analyze my end user. So I can see Takumi, if you move in the animation, Sebastian, for example, I can see Takumi with an Entra ID risk level that is corresponding to external threat. So from my standpoint, medium is not something on what I need to investigate, because maybe I am someone that is working only in case that can be escalated. But if you go in, if you can just go back with one animation, yes, Sebastian, perfect. If you can see the red one, the red signal, I can see that my insider risk severity from insider risk management is integrated directly in my XDR portal. So at this moment, I can say, okay, my external threat is medium. This is not my priority, but my insider risk is high. So at this moment, I want to go and see what happened. So Sebastian can move on. And by clicking in the same interface, I have directly, the sequence of activities that led, in this high risky score. So I can identify what happened, because this is sabotage. Can be sabotage, can be a compromission, indeed compromission. And if I want to go deeper in Purview, I can directly click in the blue side of the screen through the investigate in insider risk management. And in the next slide, you will see directly in Microsoft Purview the full sequence. So you can go until 6 months ago if you want to see what happened, to identify every sequence based on the MIT framework to help your security team to identify what was the root cause, what was the behavior, once again, and how to deal with this behavior and this incident to move on and react accordingly. So it was just a little teasing, because Sebastian proposed to us a very, very useful session. So he discussed about information protection. He discussed also about DLP, and this is the session of today. But maybe in some next session, we will be able to propose to you some, most sophisticated, session with end-to-end view, incident response around data security, and so on. So I will let Sebastian, continue in this session, and do not hesitate to be interactive and to ask everything in the chat. I will support Sebastian in this activity.
Thanks a lot, Nabil. Thanks for this insightful presentation. We will jump to the demo. This is very important normally to know. When I was working with several customers related to Purview, I believe that the best way to see Purview is a kind of puzzle that contains several pieces. And maybe if you have children's or maybe some nephews, you can see that if someone is not taking care, we can build the puzzle without any coordination, or with a chaos or disorder on the labels, on the different pieces that we are talking about. This is very important. Here we are trying to explain all these pieces and how these pieces work together. The way to finally build the puzzle can be different, depend on the people. You can start with the borders. You can start separating the pieces in color. You can start from the center. But the big deal here is you need to know that all the pieces make synergy. And as Nabil was showing, with insider risk management, that start using all the pieces at the same time. In that case, we need to complete some previous step, like understand data classifiers, understand about sensitive information types, about sensitivity labels, DLP, to start using a tool like IRM that can help us a lot. Now, I will jump to the demo. And in this case, I will start with my environment. We need to know that this is the new Microsoft Purview portal, that is purview.microsoft.com. The old site compliance.microsoft.com will be deprecated at the end of this year. We are talking about November. That means 3 more months. In that order of idea, I recommend to start using the new portal. Virgin, you have a questions? Please feel free to write on the chat. I know that Nabil will try to start answering very quickly, but if you have something for this topic, Nabil will let me know to go forward. Please,
Okay.
any one of you try to use the chat if you have any questions or comment, or if you need to go more in deep in some concept that I will show to you today. This is the new portal. Normally, here at the top, we will see the most used tools, the most used features from Microsoft Purview. If data loss prevention doesn't appear here, you need to go to view all solutions. And here on data security, we will find data loss prevention. The other big deal with this new interface is the settings. We have the settings here, or we have the settings over here. On settings, when we press settings, we will find the different configurations, the roles for this Purview portal. Remember that the global administrator with DLP is not a big deal, but with several Purview tools, the global administrator is not the god in this portal, and you need to assign additional roles to use as an example inside the risk management, communication compliance, e-discovery, content explorer. In all those cases, the global administrator cannot access directly to the console with all the capabilities. You need to set the specific roles to that account to go forward. On my case, OCR is enabled, but for OCR, we need to, in this one, no, but I have another environment that I will show to you how you can use the OCR. Enable the OCR is very simple. The only thing that is you need an Azure subscription. Let me to show very quick this one. If we go to Microsoft 365 Admin Center, you can enable that capability. You don't need to do anything additional in your environment. Nothing else is required. We need to set the the specific subscription that we will use for OCR, and after that, OCR will start working in all your DLP rules. SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, Exchange, Endpoint. Here we can see that to enable that capability, I believe that that specific one was changed from here. Give me one moment. Settings here. Okay. I lose that specific part. Okay, that's my bad. My apologies. I will back. Let me see if I can jump to quick there. Is configuring billing. Create your here is. I lost file and content. File content here. Okay, I lose that specific part in the other environment. I have that one enabled, but the only thing that we need to do here, here is, sorry. I was in the right part, but I needed to go down. Here is my apologies. Let me back again. Under the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. We will go to here on Settings, Organizational Settings. Well, this is, again, I was in the organizational settings, and now they disappeared the menu. My apologies for all of that. Okay. Okay, I will back in a moment, and I will talk to you. My apologies for that. But we will found, I was here. The menu is a little, but here is under setup, sorry. Under setup, we can find the automate content process with syntax that is under files, and then we can enable the subscription. We will go here to go syntax, and we can enable the OCR capability. And enable this, I need to select the subscription. I have a subscription here. I can select a group. My recommendation in this specific point is previously in your HR subscription, you can create an empty resource group because OCR have a cost. It's around $1 per 1,000 image scan. But we need to take care because a PDF as an image, if that PDF have 100 page, we are talking about 10 cents. If you set a separate resource group in your HR subscription for OCR, you can set some limits. That is very important to have in mind. If we are starting with OCR, that is my recommendation. In this case, I will use my own resource group. We will set the specific region, and after you do this configuration, we will be able here in the optical character recognitions under settings to enable this checkbox. Let me see, it's still setting up this configuration. Again, for OCR, optical character recognition, that is the only thing that we need to do. OCR start working immediately over all our DLP rules. We don't need to set any additional conditions. We don't need to set any additional checkbox in our DLP rules. The only thing is enable the capability for our tenant. And well, it's taking a little more time. But after that, if we refresh the page, let's see if it was enough. But if not, we will see that the check button is able to be enabled. Let's see if we have lucky. Okay, and now I can enable and I can set over which account or site I want to use this capability. This is very important if I want to start testing OCR to see the related cost. And that is another very important point. Right now, you can see in your Azure subscription only the cost. Today, we don't have yet, well, Microsoft doesn't have yet specific logs to have more details related how the OCR is used. Normally, the only thing that appears in the public information is the signature. In several companies use an image as a signature on emails. The signature is scanned once, and after that is not scanned anymore. That means if I am sending 100 or 1,000 hundreds of emails daily, The first scan will will have a cost for the signature, but after that, only when you add image on the message body and that kind of things. But nevertheless, after you enable the OCR, you will be able to set a small group to start testing OCR. The other thing as related to data loss prevention is here, we are on settings, is all the configuration for endpoint DLP. We will have another session to talk about endpoint DLP because that is a very wide review. There is several configurations, there is several things that we need to do. And today we are starting from scratch with the DLP. And in that case, we will focus on the main services, cloud services, Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams. Now, this is a DLP. This is the DLP interface. We can find an overview with several information. Here, another big change between the compliance portal, compliance.microsoft.com, and the Purview portal is we can find if we connect to data loss prevention or we connect to sensitivity labels or communication compliance, we will find this section for classifiers to see the sensitive information types. And under the Explorer, we will find Activity Explorer and Data Explorer. Content Explorer will be deprecated and replaced by Data Explorer. Data Explorer is the new one. Now, on policies. These are the default policies. When you start building your tenant from scratch, some policies come in previous configure in your environment. But if you want to learn more about the sensitive, the DLP, this can be very helpful. If you go to Microsoft 365 Admin Center, normally today coming with this simplify view, you will see a lot of all the users. Please move to dashboard view. And in the dashboard view, you will find this one, Advanced Deployment Guide and Assistant. In the Advanced Deployment Guide and Assistant, here at the bottom, Secure Score, under Microsoft Purview Information Protection Setup Guide, this is a long path, but in this one, we will find a guide how we can implement our first DLP rules, how we can implement our first sensitivity labels, and several other tips that can be very helpful to start protecting our information. Here we can see, and you will find several of additional information. Nevertheless, I will share quick here on the chat. The product group for DLP, they release a portal called DLP Ninja. It's for all the Ninja trainings. And in that portal, I just put on the chat, you can find a more deep knowledge for DLP, separate in three sections, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. The other very important thing, and for that reason I come in here, we will see alert an incident. There are several things that can be set here, is if we go a little more in this line, we can find this new PowerShell module that can be installed in your environment. Let me share here with you. This module permit to obtain sensitive information types to test your DLP rules. Something that happens a lot is when we are trying to create our DLP rules, find the right data to test our DLP rules is a big deal. It really is a big deal. After you install that module, you can start the modules. I put the links on the chat. You will be request for your user, compliance administrator, or a global administrator. And after that, after you execute that, you will be able to see your current DLP policies that you have in your environment, the sensitive information types that are related to these policies. But more than that, if you select the manually selection, you can see here a big list of sensitive information types. As an example, I can take the ABI routing number. I will press this check at the bottom, and I will say that I need 50 values to test that ABI routing number. And if I need a SWIFT code, if I need credit card numbers, if I need the international bank account number, in all the cases, I can select the specific values that I need. I enable the override and I select how many values I need. And now I have the values that I can use to test my DLP rules. I will use this tool to start testing our policies. The first thing and now we will jump to create a policy. The first thing that we need to have in mind is a DLP policy. A DLP policy is a kind of container. It's a kind of folder. In a DLP policy, we can have several rules. Something that I was doing from the field when I was showing and working with the DLP is I was viewing that some customers was creating many policies as many rules that they have. That is not the best. We will discuss which ones are the best practice, at least from the field. And inclusive, if some of you know me, normally today, at least from my point of view, DLP rules, sensitivity labels, data classifiers are only ours. If you have the knowledge, are only ours to implement and configure this one. But related to the security and compliance concern, we need to focus on process, procedures, roles, responsibilities, and permissions. And I am saying all of that because to set the policy name or set the rule name depend in general in which way do you want to show your data? In which way do you want to create your report? What mean that? I will jump now to the other environment that I have. Give me one moment. In this one, I have a little more activities, but I have a disorder. You can see that I have several policies and different rules. We will play with all of this, but my main point here with Activity Explorer, this is the tool that we have to see our matches. Wait a moment. Here we have some built-in filters for endpoint DLP, DLP policies, or DLP rules. It's still loading. I'm waiting to finish to load to select the date. The first thing is we need to remember that Activity Explorer only shows the past 30 days. That is very important to have in mind. And then we can see that I have some DLP rule match. Let me select the DLP rule match. And we're expanding to add a filter, DLP rule. I believe it's more quick here, built-in DLP policy rules. And okay, this is not too friendly, this interface. But here coming the first thing, well, these are the rules. We are discussing about the policies, but this is our DLP rule match, and something similar happens with the DLP policies. If we are not using a right name, we will find that we have a PCI match, but we are not aware if that PCI is for Teams, is for SharePoint, is for OneDrive, or Endpoint DLP, or Power BI, or on-prem. There are several locations. For that reason, if we need to create report, if we need to uh, export the data and show the data in an easy way, the first thing is have names that can help us quickly to filter the data. Backing back to that point, I'm trying to get to the machine. That's not. Okay. We need to set a policy name, and normally my recommendation is establish the workload. For the moment, I will maintain this custom policy because I want to show something first, and then I will back to change the name. We can change the name only during the process to create the policy. After that, we will not be able to change the policy name. But what I want to show here is when we create our policy, by default, all the locations are selected at the same time. We will skip that min unit. That is another big deal. Here you can see that almost all the locations or workload or services, you can call in different ways, are selected. What happened? When all the locations are selected at the same time, and if we go to create a rule, the conditions that we can use or the actions that we can use are reduced. Nevertheless, if we select only one location, in this case, as an example, exchange, I believe that I have another one on. So when I go to the rules and I will create a rule, I can see that I have several conditions and many actions. And something happens similar if I back here and I go to devices, that is endpoint DLP. We say that we will discuss that in another moment, but to show that here we have some specific conditions, and when we go to actions, we can see different actions that normally are not displayed when all the locations are selected at the same time. Now, having that on mind, I will create a first policy for exchange. Mm, Another thing that I was viewing in different customers is they start creating different policies for exchange, but for PII information, for PCI information, for different kind of data source information. My recommendation is try to reduce the number of policies. The big deal with the policies is because it's a kind of container, I can easily enable or disable all the rules that are running in that policy with one shot. But in other case, I can come in here and I can enable or disable some specific rules. The answer to have more than one policy related, as an example, to exchange is only if you need separate reports. If you need separate reports. That is all the stuff related. When I talk about a report, there is several solutions to build a report. The information can be exported. If you are interested, I built this simple solution to export the logs from Activity Explorer. That is an easy one that permit to export the different activities from Activity Explorer to JSON, CSV, or send the data to Logs Analytics. I have another solution that is bigger, that is MPARR, Microsoft Purview Advanced Reach Report. Is another solution that you can easily find on internet if you're looking for MPARR. But with MPARR, as an example, here I can see all my information joined with the Microsoft Entra information. In that case, I can see the activities related to the legal area, OneDrive Exchange. But I am coming here because in this case, I have information for a more wide range, around 2 years of data. And here we can see the DLP policies names. And I was saying, if I am not clear with the policy names, it's a little more complex to filter the data. Or something similar happened with the DLP rules. If my DLP rules doesn't have a right name, in this case, it's easy to identify the rules that are matching with endpoint DLP or exchange. But this one that is called protect label document doesn't help me to identify which one is the service. My recommendation again is try to simplify the names using the service that you will apply the DLP rules. And then in the DLP rules, use a name that can facilitate to you to filter the data. That is the only thing that I am trying to explain with these steps when we are creating the DLPs rules and the DLP policy. Okay, I have this new environment. I am creating one policy for Exchange Online. Admin unit is another capability that is available for almost all the services. You need to configure on Microsoft Entra. This is very helpful when you have a share tenant. If in your tenant are more than 2 or 3 or more organizations and you want to split the administration, the admin unit is the way to do that. In that case, the admins for the new admin unit that was created can create DLP rules or sensitivity labels only for that admin unit. It's a kind of organizational unit. It's a subgroup inside of your tenant, and all the activities related to manage that admin unit are separate for the rest of the organization. And I will focus on Exchange. Another thing, my recommendation, every time that you create a policy, create the policy for all the organization. And then if you need to have a more granular rule for a specific group or a specific person, we can do that on the rule. But in general, try always to apply your policies to the entire organization. Why? Because if we start applying policies to specific groups, we can have the risk that maybe some people was not added to all the groups, and we will generate a security gap. For me, any exception finally is a security gap, and we need to find a way to cover that. Okay, I will apply my policy for all the users in my organization. But as I mentioned previously, when we create the rule, here, if we need to create a more granular rule, we can select that the sender is, or the sender is member of, this is recipient, sender is member of. I don't know why this is not ordered by alphabetical order, but the options are there. You need to have lucky to find. Sometimes is in front of you, but you're not able to see because it's in disorder, the list of different conditions. Now, related to content contains sensitive information types. We was talking about data classifiers previously, and as I mentioned, I was explaining a little quick about this this kind of data, and this is new. We can set the content contains to the message or the attachment, or message only or attachment only. This is new. uh, Previously, all the message, content, and attachment was scanned. Now we can separate. In content contains, we can find sensitive information types. In the sensitive information types, we can find the EDM, except data match as well, and the document fingerprint, sensitivity labels, and trainable classifier. In sensitive information types, we can find all the built-in sensitive information types plus all your custom sensitive information types. On my case, this is a new tenant, but in this old one, if I go to the classifiers, I created more than 100. In my case, I have more than 400 sensitive information types. Several of them related to custom ones, or based on exact data match, or document fingerprint. That is something that can be very helpful to identify your information. As the most common one, let's looking for the credit card number. PCI charged externally. The other big deal when we talk about rules, and again, it's only depend how do you want to show your information. But my recommendation is every time that we want to identify a specific sensitive information types, at least 2 or 3 different rules needs to be created. One for the information that is shared outside, and another for the information that is shared inside. What happened? And I was there discussing with Nabil that past day about that. If you review the past 20 years about security report about data leaks and fraud, you will see that, rounding the numbers, 25% of the fraud or the data leaks coming completely from an external source from our organization. But the 75% have always an internal component. In that order of idea, if we are applying the sense the sorry, if we are applying the DLP rules only to the information that is sharing to outside, we are not covering all the scenarios, and there is a big deal that we can have a security gap internally. Okay, in that order of idea, I will create one DLP rules without set if the information is shared outside or the information is shared inside. The big deal to do that is, again, the report. We can have several reports, and we need to decide if that report will be low, medium, or high, at least in the way that we saw the report. My recommendation, as I mentioned, is if we are looking for financial information, we can create one when the information is shared outside, another for the information that the information that is shared inside, and the third one is a depend for the information that coming from outside to inside. Why? Because, as an example, the companies, the organizations that are PCI compliance, they cannot have any kind of credit card numbers. I need to read the version 4, but at least with the version 3.1, 3.2.1, you cannot have any kind of credit card numbers in your cloud services. We can cover all the scenarios internally and information that is shared outside, but I need to take care if someone external is trying to reach my user sending credit card numbers. For that reason, there is some scenarios when we need to cover the information that coming from outside to inside. And here we can see on the conditions that the content is shared, and here we can see only people inside or with people outside my organization. And the other big deal is content is received from people inside or people outside. If we are creating a rule to identify the information that is sent inside, we need to content is received from inside and is shared inside. If you don't use this one and you have only with people inside my organization, you will have matches for all the information that is shared internally and the information that coming from outside to inside. For the rules to inside, we need these 2 conditions, or from outside to inside, we need these 2 conditions. From inside to outside, we need only this condition: content is shared from Microsoft 365 to people outside my organization. The other big deal, and something that is very helpful here, in the previous recorded session, I put the link on the chat when you can find the other sessions. The big deal with the sensitive information types, and if you're not aware about the sensitive information types, let me go quick here, sensitive info type definitions, and I will share the link. And this is very important. And if you have 2 other hours, I recommend to review the the other session that is in the YouTube channel. But here is the big deal with the credit card numbers, and something happens with the SSN, with the driver license. You need to take care to review all of this. But here we can see that for credit card numbers, we have 2 different confidence levels. The first one, when we set the confidence level in a high confidence, we will looking for the number, the credit card number, plus a word from this list, the CC verification, or the names, the brandings, or an expiration date. We need the number plus any of those additional evidence. And if we set the credit card number in low confidence, we are looking only for the number. The big deal with this one is when someone is sending a list of credit card numbers, when someone is sending a list of credit card numbers, normally that additional evidence doesn't exist. And if I set my DLP rules to identify credit card number from 1 to any, maybe I will have matches only when 1 to 5 credit card numbers are shared. But when someone is sending 20, we will not have a match, because when someone is sending a big list, they are not adding that additional evidence. In that order of idea, something that we can do, again, this balance related to false positive and false negative is a big deal, but something that we can do is something like this one. Let me finish this. And I will set my rule in this way. In this case, I am looking in high confidence, that means the number plus additional evidence, between 1 to 10 in high confidence. And if someone is sharing numbers only, I will trigger these DLP rules when someone is sharing 11 or more. We can start playing in this way in different options for the, as I mentioned, the identity numbers. Inclusive, if you review that recorded session about sensitive information types, the SSN for US, that is a big deal, because no matter in which way you set the SSN, you always are looking for a keyword list for that SSN. No matter if you set in high, medium, or low, you need the number plus the word SSN. There is a recommendation in that previous recorded session how you can clone the original and remove that keyword in some cases. Okay, I have my rule. Credit card numbers 1 to 10 in high confidence or 11 to any in low confidence. This permits to me to reduce the false positive. When the information is shared outside my organization. And in actions, we have several actions, and again, depend on in which way do you want to work. But I will explain some of these one. As an example, this can be very helpful. Forward the message for approval to sender's manager. But to use this one, we need to be aware that our Microsoft Entra is right populated and all the people have the manager set. If that is not the case, this action will not work. We forward the message for our approval to a specific approver. In this case, we can use distribution list or shared mailbox instead of a specific account. Because if we have a specific account to approve, but that user is sick or live by a workshop or is on holidays, we will need to wait until that guy back to approve. If we use a distribution list or if we use a shared mailbox, the first one that approve permit to send the data. Another big deal with this one, and a common misunderstanding, when you use this one, restrict access or restrict content, here we will apply only encryption. What's happened? In another recorded session, in the previous one about sensitivity labels, I was explaining this one. When you create a sensitivity labels doesn't have protection. No matter that you enable the encryption, protection, permissions, today, Craig, I believe it's called control access, but the radio button that you need to enable to set permissions, uh, when you press that radio button and you create some kind of protection for your sensitivity label, what is happening in the background, an RMS, right management service template, is created. An RMS template is created. And here, when we are selecting this one, what we are doing is apply one of those RMS template, but not the sensitivity label. And because we are not applying the sensitivity label, that means we are not adding the additional metadata or we are not adding the visual marks. That is very important to have in mind. If you want to apply sensitivity labels, if you want to apply sensitivity labels with the RMS template, with the protection, with the visual marks, with the metadata, you need to go to information protection. You need to go to information protection. And here you need to create a policy for auto label. This is the way to apply sensitivity labels to the emails that are sent or the emails that are received. If we want to add the sensitivity labels with the metadata, visual marks, and all that stuff, including the RMS template, we need to create an auto labeling policy under information protection. When we create a DLP rule for exchange, this option only applies the RMS template, doesn't apply the sensitivity labels with the rest of things that I was mentioning. Or if you want to start learning what is happening, the common behavior in your environment, you can avoid to apply any kind of action. You can avoid apply any kind of action. We can notify the users. This was split maybe 1 year ago between email notifications and policy tips. Previously, every time that you was trying to enable the policy tips, the email notification was required to set. Today, that is not forced. And I recommend to avoid this one. because if not, every time that someone sends something that matches with our DLP conditions, that user receive an email. And normally that generates a lot of noise. Can be better only use a policy tip to say, okay, take care about this information that you are sharing. The big brother is viewing, and take some actions or try to avoid put this kind of information. There is, or we can use the default policy tip. When we enable the policy tip, we are able to enable the user override. The user override means that the end user is capable to say, I need to send this one, I have a business justification, or this is a false positive. What happened, as an example, the ISBN code, that is the code used by some books, in some cases matches with the credit card numbers. If I'm working in a library or my organization have a library and I need to send some information and that trigger the part of the credit card numbers, I say, okay, this is a false positive. You need to take some actions to avoid that. And well, we will review this one. This is very important, and why we will not take an actions. We can use the user notification if we want to start training to the end users. But this is very important, the incident report. And here exists a very big change that happened only few months ago. Previously, when we was creating our DLP rules, and we was setting, we are not reaching that part yet, our DLP policies in simulation mode. Previously was called testing mode and was having another 3 other names, but the last name right now is simulation. When you run the DLP policies on simulation mode, today the alerts are not sent to Activity Explorer. And several of us, we was using the DLP policies in simulation mode to review the matches later on Activity Explorer. Today, if your rule is set on simulation mode, the matches are not sent to Activity Explorer and you cannot see the result in that specific part. You need to take other uh, section to see the matches. For that reason, today, if you need to test your DLP policies, your DLP rules, can be better, doesn't have an action, doesn't take any kind of actions, to have the capability to send all that information to Activity Explorer. For other side, if I'm testing some sensitive information types, I start building sensitive information types, train out classifier, I want to test with real data, I will create my DLP rule, but I will not generate an incident report. At least not this alert. If I turn off this alert, the data is not sent to Activity Explorer. What can I do is use this second option, that is use email incident report, to send the detailed information that is matching with my criteria and test my document fingerprint, train classifier, that kind of things. My recommendation in this point is use a shared mailbox. Something that is very common and happens a lot is when we use the email incident report, we set a personal account. That is the most common error. And why is an error? Because again, if that user is not available for holidays, sickness, or anything like that, or maybe the user left the organization, all that information will be lost. For other side, if I am testing a new sensitive information type, a new data classifier, and that data classifier have an error, and I am using a personal account or a distribution list, I will be able to fool that inbox with false positive and errors. And that can be a big deal. If we use a shared mailbox, you can create many shared mailbox without an additional cost in your tenant. That is in the admin, in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. If you go to here to Teams and Groups, you can create shared mailbox. Shared mailbox is a kind of SharePoint, but on Exchange. It's a repo that can be shared with several users. It's a separate inbox, and that permit if I have a mistake and several alert fall in my inbox, I will easily delete all the content without having any problem. For that reason, my recommendation is try to replace this one using a shared mailbox. And I will remove the site admin. The other big deal with this incident report, and I will show some samples, is in several countries there is a different laws related to data protection. My recommendation based on that is try to remove the last checkbox, because the last checkbox include the original match, the original source. In this case, because we are creating for rules for exchange, that will include as an attach the original email and the attachment for that email. I will only enable this one if I am testing a document fingerprint, or if I am looking for a Visio diagram with IP address. In that case, I need the original email to see that match. But in other cases, I don't recommend to use this one for all the laws related to personal data protection. What we can do is see, I will show you that, is see the primary element that is matching with the surrounding text. And if we need more details, we will have the message ID, and we can use the message ID to find that using e-discovery, content search, and other tools that are available. Or inclusive, we can use the same Content Explorer to see that information. Here, we have our first rule, and the only thing that is pending, if we don't set this severity level, by default is set on low. Severity level set on low, medium, or high, low, medium, or high, is only for reporting purpose. It's only for reporting purpose. In that order of idea, nothing happens, no other activities happen on the background if we set the severity level to low, medium, or high. It's only in the way that the report will be shown, the match will be shown on the report. That is all the stuff. And now we have our first rule. We have the rule to the information that is sent, the credit card numbers that are sent from inside to outside. Someone is asking about the OCR cost, and I will put the details. Right now, the only way to avoid any problem with the cost is create a resource group and set a limit for that resource group, how many money can be used by that resource group. The product group, and I hope that they release that soon. The last time that I talked with the product group, they told me that during this Q3, they was hoping to release some logs that can be used to have a more detailed information about the OCR cost. But today, the only thing that you can see is how many the total cost of the OCR service. And now I have my first rule. This is new. This was added maybe 2 months ago, and it's the options to copy this rule. This was not available a few months ago. Now, if we press this one, I will be able to take the same rule, but now permit me to go more quick, and I will create the rule to the data that is shared internally. I have the same conditions, but here I will say people inside my organization, and the content is received from people inside. And now I have my second rule. As I mentioned, I can create several rules in one policy. I was viewing that in some cases, several customers that was creating several policies and having one or two rules per policy. We need to simplify the way that we are managing and controlling our information. And at least for me, I believe that we can work with less uh, policies and use inside of the policies we can create several rules. The other thing that normally I recommend for the names, but in this case I'm not using that because I don't have an actions related, is to facilitate the rule management is try to put, okay, this is rule is for exchange. I am looking for PCI information, and then try to add the actions, block, forward, that permit to easily identify what are you doing and go more quick to manage the rules. In this case, I will set only this one. And as I mentioned, today we have these options to run in simulation mode, and inclusive we can enable the policy tips. But the big deal is this information is not sent anymore to Activity Explorer. In that case, I will turn the policy on immediately because I am aware that I don't have any action that can impact the organization. That is, in general, how we can create different DLP rules, in this case, for exchange. Another common scenario, and let me go to here, to the policies. This is the other tenant that they have. When we was talking previously about the synergy between the different Purview pieces in this big puzzle, we need to understand how we can cover certain kind of scenarios. I'm working with the design for exchange. As an example, on the past, I built a sensitive information types to detect credentials. For me, credentials is the pair a login plus password, and I build that. And we start using that sensitive information types to detect that the people was sending credentials inside or outside. And we found that several people was sending credentials outside the organization. Okay, we can block, but that is not enough, because when we start taking some actions in our DLP rules, we can stop the business. We can disrupt the daily work. In that order of idea, and in this particular case, we identified that the service desk was sending credentials. But okay, if I block send credentials, service desk will not be able to send credentials. And we need that the service desk will be able to send credentials. What we can do? Okay, we can do an exception. But as I mentioned previously, an exception is a security gap. How we can resolve that? And here come into play the sensitivity labels. What I did in this case, if, well, the last time I changed this one, but if someone is sending credentials to people outside my organization, I will block, except, and here coming some other configuration that we can set, if the user is applying the right label, the right sensitivity label. I create a sensitivity label that is only available for service desk. In the previous session about sensitivity label, I was explaining that the sensitivity labels define who have access and the permissions granted for that access, and the policy labels, define who can apply the label. In that order of idea, I created a sensitivity labels with certain kind of permissions, and I set a policy to permit to apply that label only to people from the service desk. Inclusive, we can select some specific people. That what permit that is if someone from the service desk is sending credential without using the sensitivity label, that information will be blocked. They need to use the right label to start sending credentials outside the organization. And in that case, we are start playing with the different options, with the different Purview features to give more capabilities to the end users. Now, I was talking about this share mailbox. Let me show you how that incident report is received. Additionally, I was talking about to start playing with the data. I believe that I have something to a rule to detect credit card numbers and some account bank numbers, and I believe that maybe a SSN. Well, then let me try with that one. And where is? Yeah, this is not friendly. I don't know why. They have some problems to to put this one in in alphabetical order. I don't know why, but let's play with this one. Here you can see that I take some general information. In my demo environment that I will show, I have the possibility to work with OCR. I am taking a screenshot for that. And backing back to this one, I will send a new email to, let's send an email to Mike Wasowski. Info required. That is the image, and I will send. And meanwhile, here I have my share mailbox. This is the DLP 365 notification. And inclusive, we can see very quick that inclusive now I have a blog. Let's wait for a moment to see the details. I don't remember if I have that one. I was playing with the different rules, but let me go to on the pass. Here we can see as an example, when you set that incident report without attachment, we are able to see who is sending to whom, if someone was on copy, BCC, which is the conditions that matches the sensitive information that matches. And here we can see that the rule matches is the financial sharing externally, the policy names is the exchange DLP rule, the location, and this, let me see if I can do an exercise very quick, but this is the location. Here we have the message body, but the location can be the name of the attachment. And inclusive, if you take a Word document with sensitive information types, you save that document as a PDF, you put that PDF in several folders, you zip all that folders, and you change the extensions from zip to XXX, it will be able to find that specific extensions and all the content inside of that. When we attach the original email, we will see this one. This one is the original email that was added, that was sent. Remember, when we was reviewing the DLP rules, at the bottom was a check that I unchecked related to attach the original source. When we enable the attach the original source, the alert coming with the original email, and inclusive this, if this original email coming with the attachment, we will be able to view all of that. The big deal, why we try to avoid that kind of activity, because in some countries, the the laws say that we cannot have access to personal data. Let me see if I can show here. This is another one. And you can see that when you are when you are getting the data from the OCR, in this case, I did a similar exercise. I only copy and paste in the body a picture, and for that reason appear as an image.png. And here are all the matches. The OCR is capable to read all that information and show me what is matching on that image. And let me see if I have that exercise with the zip. In this case, this is what I was doing. I take a file with credentials, I zip that PDF, and then I change the extensions to XXX instead of zip. And that permits me to see that the exchange service is capable to read the metadata from that attachment, see, based on the metadata that is a zip file, is able to open and read inside of that document and detect the sensitive information type. That is, in general, some stuff that works very fine in our environment, and we can play with that information. Now we can see, this is the last email that I sent. You can see from my main account, I sent to Mike Wazowski. This was triggered by the US bank account number. The rule match is financial sharing externally. That is the policy. I attach an image, and here we can see the primary element and the surrounding text. And this was only a copy paste from this image, and I put that image in an email, and the OCR was capable to identify that information. Let me back to here. I have my policy. I have my rules on the policies. We can start playing with the same. And let me go here that they have several previous rules created. Let me cancel this one. And here I have 4 teams. Some point to have in mind. Normally, when you create a DLP policy for exchange or rules for exchange, the time that take to sync that new rule is around 10 to 15 minutes. That means we created the rule and we need around 10 to 15 minutes to start viewing some matches. And we need to have that on mind as well, is if someone is, for any reason, your DLP rules is generating a lot of false positive, if you go to the DLP policy and you turn off the DLP rule, you are still receiving matches for around 10 to 15 minutes. Let me go here. You can see here that all the rules that are available inside of a policy can easily turn it on or off. We can press this switch and the rules can be turning off or on. We need to finish all the process, next, submit, and we need to to finish all the threads to turn it off. But after you turn it off, that at least on exchange normally can take around 10 to 15 minutes. You will still receiving alert for those false positives for the next 10 to 15 minutes after you turn it off. In the case of Teams, there is some improvement on the times. I was viewing that it's running very quick, but normally it's around 1 hour. On Endpoint, there is some improvement, and I was viewing that it's taking less time, but normally we need to wait around 2 hours to see that the endpoint DLP rules are applying and working. With SharePoint and OneDrive, that is a big deal. SharePoint and OneDrive depend in something that is called crowd process. The crowd process is the index service that read the information, and depend of the volume of your organization, that indexing process can take several hours to identify the data that is shared previous to apply a deal. To control and mitigate that, we have this option. This is a global setting that can be set in your environment. This is a global SharePoint Online settings that permit to mark all the new files as sensitive by default. In that case, if someone is sharing a file with someone externally, that file will be available after the crowd process finish and sentence if that files match with the DLP rules or not. If that file doesn't match, the access is enabled for that file for external users. And if we have a match, well, we will block the access or we will take another action. But to control and mitigate that uh, gap related to the crowd process, that is the link that I share on chat. That is very important to have in mind. And then we can have several different rules. And if I open Teams, we will see how the DLP rules works for Teams. This is another very important point. The DLP rules, the DLP rules are set at the moment that the information is sent. The rule doesn't apply when the information is in the text area. The DLP rules only apply when you send the information and take a few seconds to identify the information and log. That means if someone is sharing some sensitive information, can happen in some cases that in the pop-up, we are able to see that someone is sending us a credit card number, but after that, the information is blocked. I don't remember. Let me copy this one, big one. I was sending several information. I can take this big list with info. I can copy and paste and try to send. The information normally is sent, but you can see that in 2 seconds or maybe less, the message was blocked. That's mean maybe the other user can see some numbers in the pop-up, but at the moment to reach this one, the message was blocked. And this is a very big one because this employee's data is EDM, is exact data match, is another kind of sensitive information type that passed on structured data. In a previous session, I was explaining how you can create an exact data match with information that coming from a database. I take that information, I create the schema, I upload the data, and I set that specific data classifier that is identified in this one. What is the big deal with EDM? And for I'm trying to explain a little more in this point. EDM support bases with 100 millions of records. EDM is when someone is sharing a specific extract for our information from our customers database, provider database, employees database. And this is something that can be very helpful. Can be with PCI. We can enable the as well if someone is sharing an image. And with that, we have a first overview to DLP. We have 10 minutes remaining. Please take time to fill our survey. You can scan the QR code or use the URL, the link. And I don't know if you have questions, comment for this one. As I mentioned, we will try to set another webinar to talk about endpoint DLP. All these topics are long topics to discuss. And in the same survey, I added the first question is if you want to be read for the next topics. If you are interested to be aware for the new topics, the new webinars that we will do, please take a minute to complete the survey and say, okay, I will be reached, I will be contact for the next topics. I believe that today or tomorrow I will release the new topic for September. I will start talking about Purview Data Map. If you are following me, you will see soon that I will share the new public webinar. Here we have something. What happens when a user reports a DLP rules that can be matches? Okay, that is a big deal because you need to go to Activity Explorer or you need to use a tool like this script, the first script that they shared, that Activity Explorer Export or MPARR or any other third-party tool to check that information and review who was reporting the business justification and that kind of things. Some of the false positive that you mark when you send an email and you say this sensitive information type is a false positive, depend on your previous configuration, go to the machine learning from Microsoft to identify why that is marked as a false positive. Related, what is your experience when it comes to identifying the customer sensitive data? Identify the data classifiers and the sensitive information types is a big deal. I recommend to see the previous session, but normally when you make a list of all your information assets, the average is not less than 600. That 600 of information assets traduced in sensitive information types is around the 4 part. We are talking about 150 complex sensitive information types. Why that reduction? Because in general, you can have, as an example, an Excel file with names, full name, phone number, email address, and other fields, but depend on the source, that pattern can be called customers, providers, teachers, students, employees, and several different names. But the pattern is the same. The rate to create sensitive information types is around 3 to 5 per week. That means try to cover 95% of your information asset. Maybe it's an effort for 1 or 2 years with someone dedicated on that. With all that in mind, identify the customer sensitive information types is a big deal. Today, today we can use we can use something like trainable classifiers that simplify the process because there is a machine learning in the background. And during this month, I believe that the new version was released for the trainable classifier, the version 2, that reduced the time to create a trainable classifier for 1 month to only 1 week, requesting only a few files instead of 500. Previously, to create a train classifier, you need at least 500. Now, with 50 files, can be enough. We have the document fingerprint for the structure based and EDM. Playing with all of that, we can reduce and we can identify the right information. And I use a lot the DLP, and I normally create a DLP policy for that in simulation mode, because one of the big deal when we talk about the customer data, when we are building the customer data, the sensitive information types, is when say you can create your own testing data. When you create your own testing data, normally it always works. But the big deal is when we start putting that in production, normally we start having several matches. In that order of idea, my recommendation when you create new sensitive information types is try immediately that sensitive information types in real data, creating a policy in simulation mode and the rule over all your email flow. That is the best way to identify the data and start identifying and protecting the information. Remember that we need to understand that Microsoft Purview is a kind of big puzzle with several pieces, and all those pieces working together permit to have a more robust solution or a more high protected solution for compliance. Any other questions? Here I have the options to request access. I don't see any option to request access.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, don't worry, Sebastian. I made a live demo, a recording of a live demo during your presentation. So I will share it to you about how the synergy between Defender for Cloud Apps to block, a download from document with sensitive info type, and how you can lead your end user, with automatic labeling recommendation to, apply label and consume document safely. So just a little demo, I will share it to you. And if you can share it or propose it to your community, don't hesitate.
Well, in that case, thanks for participating on this webinar. Please try to complete the survey. Be aware I will be sharing the next date for the new topics for the next public webinars soon. Have a great mid of the week and a great weekend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. See you.
Bye bye. The section will be updated to date at the end of the day. Bye bye.